How and when to expand your market. There's 5 ways. Now, big picture, the vast majority of people need to do way more with their current market. So just to give you context on this, I had a guy who came out to a workshop and he said, hey, I'm a coach who coaches, right? And I was like, all right, fine. And he said, I'm making $2 million a year. It's a really saturated space. So I think, should I go broader? It's a general business. And I was like, dude, how many coaches exist? And he was like, zillions. And I was like, dude, I think you just need to get better. Because if you were the best coach of coaches, then you would be able to take all of the market share that all of those guys have and it would come to you, right? Winner takes all if you're the best. And so just to give you an example, and this is the one I gave him, I said, gym launch. Everyone knows this is a gym company, but you don't know how niche it really is. So 1, we didn't work with personal trainers. Number 2, we do now, but we didn't for the first 4 or 5 years work with big box facilities. So large, facilities where you pay, $10 to $70 a month to have access to the pool, the racquetball thing, the cardio area, the weights, basketball, whatever. We didn't work with them at all. I call those facility leasing. We didn't use those. We didn't work with yoga. We didn't work with spin. We didn't work with Pilates. We literally only worked with micro gyms that did before and afters of weight loss and transformations. They had to do fitness and weights or some combination of those. That was it. That's a niche of a niche of a niche. And that business still cranks out $30+ million a year. All right. And so the idea here is that you want, the market, if you are the best, is still massive. You just need to solve the thing that matters most, which is being the best. And so I had 2 companies that came out for a workshop that we had. And they were both agencies. It was a very simple example. So one was a generalist agency. They just did anybody who knocked on the door, they would take their money. The other one just did professional services. So that's legal, financial, insurance, like those types of services. And the generalist guys, I said, okay, you have this big list of customers. I'm sure that there's a subsegment of those customers that you do exceptionally well with. And they're like, oh my God, we crush it for IT people. And I was like, okay, cool. So what percentage of your customers are those? They're like 8%. I was like, but are they more profitable by percentage? And he's like, oh, by a mile. They're by far the most profitable. I was like, okay. So if your entire business, and they were really struggling in terms of infrastructure, they were like super stressed out, you could see it. I was like, if your whole business was just those, do you think you would like that business? And he was like, oh my God, that would be a breeze. And I was like, well, then we can build that business. And so that means that from here on out, you only sell those people. And over time, the percentage of the pie that's those customers is going to continue to increase until eventually you can cut the customers that are not your main thing. And then in a year or 2 years, you've completely transformed your business to something that's been productized. You get really efficient. You get even better at it because you only serve those customers. You get better at acquiring them, get better servicing them, you get higher margins, and you actually like your life. Provide value. Now, everybody talks about providing value, but what does that even mean? All right, so in this book, I talk about something called the value equation. It's probably the most cited chapter in this whole book. But I break down what are the elements of value. And so there are 4. Number 1 is the dream outcome, which is what does somebody actually want? So if I were to offer Daniel, who's behind the camera right now, I said, hey, you can get in shape or I can make you $1 million. Right? Making money for most men is more valuable than getting in better shape. And so the relative opportunity or the relative outcome will dictate how much money you can charge. That's why in general B2B offers are higher ticket. Now there are also fewer people who buy making money than people who buy consumer products. So you have about 1/10, so 9% of people are business owners. So you have a much smaller market. That being said, does the size of the market really matter based on the thing I just said? Probably not. But again, number 1 is dream outcome. That's what differentiates. Now, let's say you've got 2 products that offer the same solution. So let's say the weight loss example or the getting shape example. If I have a PDF for that and I've got liposuction, both of them promise the same thing, which is that you're going to get in better shape, you're going to lose weight. Okay, well then why is liposuction so much more expensive than a PDF that I could buy on the internet for $20? They both promise the same outcome. Well, there's 3 other variables. So variable number 1 is the perceived likelihood of achievement, or the risk associated with the purchase. So risk would be the negative, perceived likelihood of achievement is the positive. And so we want to increase the perceived likelihood as much as possible. So if we had that liposuction, and we've got one surgeon who's his first day out of medical school, and we've got another surgeon who's done 10,000 surgeries, which of these guys can price higher? Well, obviously you'd want to take the 10,000 one, even though it's the same procedure and the same outcome. The perceived likelihood of you actually getting what you want, the risk associated is lower, and so you're willing to pay more for that guy because he has more experience. The third variable of this is time delay. The equal opposite of that is speed. How quickly between when someone buys and when they get the promise that you outcome. Now, if you do liposuction, it's like, great, you make the purchase, then you go to sleep and you wake up and you're thin. Very, very condensed, which is why it has a lot of value. Right? Whereas if you have to do all this eating and this exercising and not drinking and changing your diet and all this, waking up early and being sore, all this, like there's a lot of delay there in terms of how much time and effort specifically it's going to take to get the outcome you want. So the faster it is, the more valuable it is. And then finally, you have effort and sacrifice, or equal opposite, ease. How easy can you make it? And so if you're trying to think about this in simple terms, it's how risk-free can I make it? How easy can I make it? How fast can I make it? And is the thing that I'm promising, the outcome that I'm promising, something they actually want? And so if you have all four of those, you have something that people really want, they have no risk of doing it, it comes immediately, and it's easy. It's easy as pushing a button. You've got an incredibly valuable thing. And so when people say add value, what you want to think about is, what does my customer, what does my avatar want to accomplish? Or what do they want to avoid? So you've got towards good stuff and away from bad stuff. And so you say, okay, I can help you avoid this bad stuff, risk-free, faster, and easier than otherwise. And the dream outcome, the good stuff, same thing again, is how can I help you get that good stuff faster, easier, and risk-free?